America, where everyone has a voice, but too many fail to speak. Too many don't know the foundation of our nation, have never read the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, or the Articles of Confederation, and fail to end up in a voting booth. It's time for change. Welcome to the Voice of Young America with Justin Austin, a platform for young America to voice their ideals and have meaningful dialogue on politics, economics, and social issues. Connect at thevoyatampabay.weebly.com. Now, the host of the Voice of Young America, Justin Austin.
Welcome to the Voice of Young America. I'm your star host, Justin Austin. Just thank you guys for joining in and just listening, and hopefully these topics are resonating with you. The goal, the purpose, the mission of the Voice of Young America is to talk about what's relevant, what are issues that we're facing in our society, but not just to spill hot air. It's actually to identify what are the core components of the issue and how do we actually eradicate the problems, the real, how to put it, we want to eradicate the vice that's in those problems so we can cause them to occur less or cause them not to occur at all in the future. And when we look at the laws in this country, I think about the fact that they're not really proactive. They're reactive. And are these laws that we're creating, are they based on eradicating the vice that's in the issues, eradicating the evil that's in the issue so we don't have to discuss this again, or we can just keep purging the problem? And I'm getting to a point where I just don't see it. When you think about the Constitution was proactive and reactive. And it was reactive in the sense of we didn't want despotism. We didn't want tyranny. So we wanted to be proactive in the sense of making sure that it didn't occur again. But then when we look at the clause or the components of the Constitution, it allows further laws to be made, amendments to be made, because the founders didn't know what dangers that would be encountered going into the future. They didn't know, so they wanted to make this document a living document, and that's why the Constitution is a living document, because it has the ability to breathe in new life, which is new laws. And I think about these reactive laws that our politicians are instituting. Just when we think about guns, right? Let's just start off with one of the major pieces of legislation, the Brady Handgun Act, which is based on the White House press secretary, James Brady, who was shot during the Reagan assassination attempt, I think back in the 80s. And this legislation mandated a waiting periods for handguns and federal background checks. But just look at some other things. Just after Columbine in 1999, many people and politicians spoke about let's do something. Let's try to eradicate this problem. A few acted, but legislation didn't pass. The Senate passed something, but the House couldn't agree with it, so nothing ever happened. After the Virginia Tech shooting in 2007, there was successful efforts to strengthen the National Instant Criminal Background Check System. Now, this legislation, which passed, increased participation of states to use the background check system. If we move on to Sandy Hook in 2012, no gun legislation was passed. A lot of things were talked about. And we look at the deadly, gross atrocity that occurred at Parkland this month, and more legislation has been discussed. We have town hall meetings, we have presidential statements. These things aren't new. So why would legislation be passed now? Because we're tired of people dying? Since when? Let's be completely honest. We're tired of people that we know dying? Maybe, but we're not tired of people dying. We're so callous to it. I mean, how many people watched the news on the Parkland shooting, was distraught by it, was destroyed by it, but didn't stop them from eating dinner, didn't stop them from playing video games, didn't stop them from listening to music. It didn't change their life. Now, those who were directly among those who were affected, whether they were in the school, whether their parents, friends, things of that nature, now they probably couldn't eat that night. They probably couldn't sleep, but the rest of America, guys were still playing the stock market. People were still, making music or whatever people do. But we're not really tired of people dying. We're tired of people that we know dying. We're tired of being in fear of dying. But gun legislation doesn't stop people from dying. Gun legislation does not stop school shootings. Let's be completely clear. So if you make a piece of legislation, let's be completely clear about the extent of the ability for legislation to change things. What can gun legislation change? Okay, I want to shoot up the school. Okay, let's say this. Boom. I want to shoot up the school and I want to go get a gun. All right, boom. I can't shoot up the school today. I have to wait 3 days. Because we have legislation that says you have to wait. Okay, boom. I get my background check. I've never committed a crime before. These kids who are shooting up schools, they never committed crimes before. So what's going to stop them from getting one? Okay, so legislation says you have to wait and get a background check. Boom. I'm still able to shoot up the school in 3 days because I'm going to pass the background check and I don't mind waiting because I'm really serious about doing this. Okay, so then there's like mental health checks. What is going to be a questionnaire? Is everyone going to be required in America to go through a mental health exam? And how often? Because if you pass this one exam, then you can get a gun. But what if you go crazy after you pass the exam? These things don't make sense. The application of the law can only go so far. What stops school shootings? People said it's not prayer. I heard that. I heard that somebody said prayer. We go through something tragic, and then people say my hearts and prayers go out to them. But hearts and prayers don't change anything. You can believe that. That's totally fine. Oh, prayers don't change anything if you're just making a hollow prayer. Of course not. If it's something that's within your heart, it's not just about the prayer. It's about what you're going to do after that prayer. It states that once you make your petition known to God, you're supposed to live like it's going to come to fruition. So how are you living after you make that prayer? Are you living lovingly? Because let's be completely honest. People who kill people, that's not about love. That's everything that's counterintuitive to love. But let's not get stuck down there. The whole point of this conversation is just to state this. Legislation has limitations. Those limitations are very apparent. Pass legislation, but understand that it only can go so far. And once you pass that legislation, understand what needs to be attached to it. What needs to be attached to it is a better society. What needs to be attached to it is more love and homes. What needs to be attached to it is more understanding of one another. What needs to be more attached to it is a search for truth of what we're actually doing while we're on this earth. If people actually live with purpose and faith, what would this world look like? Reactive politics, 9/11, the Patriot Act, 1908, financial crash, the central bank, 2008 recession, tighter banking regulations. And just check, let's look at the laws that's named after people. 2007, you got Donda West, which is the mother of Kanye West, and who's a popular rapper who's had some troubles as of recent. Then this Donda West law requires patients to undergo health checks and receive the clearance, written clearance to undergo plastic surgery. You got the Lindbergh Law, which is in reference to kidnapping. You got the Hiss Act, which references communism. You got the Sonny Bono Act, which is about copyright. But a lot of these things are just reactive politics. And I understand that we don't know what's going to happen in the future, so we only can react once it does. But it's a lot of things that we can put in place. That's what the whole point of the Constitution was, is that we have to actually have an understanding of how this world has been working, what it actually project in the future, what might occur, and set barriers that will eradicate evil once it actually occurs. That's the whole point of the Constitution, is to create a framework for people to thrive and to push out those things that keep us down in all kinds of areas. I'm for gun legislation, like President Bump. I think they call them bump stoppers, those things that turn semi-automatic guns into automatic guns. Totally for it. Am I for more allocation of funds to schools for SROs? I'm totally for it. Am I for bullying prevention? Totally for it. Am I for teachers being armed? I'm for it. But let's make sure we're properly teaching them. But what if you have a teacher just like you have a cop who has a gun and he's a nervous Nelly? Is he actually going to help? Or will he end up shooting a kid? What are you going to say then? When this teacher has a gun and he's to protect himself, but he's not really equipped. He doesn't have courage in his heart. He has a gun, but he has no courage. And he has a poor aim. So when he's trying to shoot this kid who's shooting other people, what if he shoots another kid? Are we thinking about that? On college campuses, they want the students to be armed to protect themselves for Virginia Tech, a repeat. So if these kids are armed, but they don't go to the range every week, they just have a gun. How many people own a gun who don't go to the gun range and actually practice? Let's be thoughtful of what these legislation actually means. Reactive politics only can go so far. So be mad, totally. Be hurt, totally. Don't make legislation off feelings and pain, because then you're going to become short-sighted. When have you ever been, how do you say, when have you ever looked down the line and looked towards the future while you're angry? I believe the good book says it's okay to be angry, but just don't act based off that anger. If the good book tells us that, I think it's for a reason. Because you can't see the things that you need to see when you're blinded by that emotion. Let's not pass legislation based on the way we feel today. Let's pass legislation with an understanding that the law only can go so far. President Trump is going to step up. I truly believe so. The NRA is already closing ranks. And those who are opposed to the NRA and gun legislation, they definitely close ranks too. But closing ranks has never, ever, ever furthered legislation. Actually, it's killed legislation time and time again after every mass shooting, almost. Just be thoughtful of what you're asking your representatives to do. Be thoughtful of the laws that you want them to implement, because they can come back and bite you. They can come back and actually hurt progress. They can come back and actually prevent someone from being in a position to do something about tragedies. When we make reactive laws, what we are doing is setting ourselves up for failure. This is Justin Austin with The Voice of Young America. The conversation doesn't stop here. Check out our website, thevoyertampabay.weebly.com. We're going to keep this conversation going. We have to make sure we're putting facts over feelings, because the fact of it is, the law was never made to control man. The law was made to punish men. We want to prevent. We want to prevent. Anybody can punish. We need prevention. That means we need to touch the hearts of men. We'll be right back. Thank you for listening.
You're listening to the Voice of Young America with Justin Austin. Watch what happens on the Voice of Young America YouTube channel. The Voice of Young America on AM 860. The Answer.
I'm Justin Austin, host of The Voice of Young America. When it comes to complete auto repair and fast service, check out the pros at Auto Lens Center, 1308 East Bush Boulevard in Tampa, providing professional quality work on all American-made and foreign car models. Great pricing on complete auto repair services, oil changes, and brakes. Auto Lens Center at 1308 East Bush Boulevard, where experience and good service go a long way. Call 813-764-7891. That's 813-764-7891. Autoland Center.
The Voice of Young America relies on committed Americans like you to stand with us. If you're frustrated with the lack of real information being delivered to the next generation, then support Justin's efforts. Connect on social media, thevoyatampabay.weebly.com. Email thevoyatampabay@gmail.com. The Voice of Young America. To inform with truth and broadcast collectively and respectively the diverse ideals of young America. Finding skilled and unskilled tradesmen can be a problem, whether it's temporary or long-term. Rose Employment Solutions handles all of your workers' comp needs while responsibly solving your staffing problems. You make the call, they do it all. 813-644-5037. And for the quality tradesmen in search of career growth, full-time hours, and multiple pay options, call Rose Employment Solutions, 813-644-5037. Learn more at rose-emp.com or just stop by their office, 1020 West Bush Boulevard in Tampa. Welcome back to the Voice of Young America with Justin Austin. Connect with Justin by email, thevoyatampabay@gmail.com. Welcome back to the Voice of Young America. I'm your star host, Justin Austin. We'd like to give a special shout out to our sponsors at Rose Employment Solutions. You make the call, they do it all, 813-644-5037. Now let's get into our next topic, which is degrees that don't count. Now, I'm not going to tell you which degree not to get, but what are you actually doing? I read a study, okay? They were saying about the struggles of people who go to college, and they talked about the 29 million middle to low skilled jobs. And those jobs, the people who actually take those jobs are usually ones who go to community college. And they were talking about, it's a whole bunch of numbers. I'm not here to do all that. But one of the things that they pointed out is that these kids aren't prepared. These kids aren't prepared to actually go to college. And then so when they get to college, they're taking remedial courses. And when they take those remedial courses, a lot of them is not connected to actually a trade or a particular profession. These remedial courses are just trying to catch you up to the point where you can actually participate in a course where you can start going towards your profession. But people get discouraged by taking these remedial courses and they drop out. They really don't excel past them. And whose fault is that? Don't worry, I'll wait. Whose fault that a kid actually gets to graduate from high school and not be prepared for college? Man, let's see. The parents? Yep. The school teachers? Yep. The school system? Yep. But more so that individual. Stop blaming society for people having no work ethic. Stop blaming society for parents not giving a darn about their kids' education. As I have this conversation with my beautiful, beautiful, beautiful fiance, we talk about the fact that, of course, we always need to provide shelter, clothes on their back, food in their stomach. But how useful are all those things if her spiritual health is on zero, or if her hunger for knowledge is on zero, her ability to read the time and count her money and have forward thinking? Those things are just as important as putting food in their stomach. So any parent listening, if you feel that paying the bills is more important than feeding the spirit and creating skills and tools and developing talent within the child's mind, you're a fool. Yes, this is supposed to be offensive to those who actually don't agree, because you're selling your child short. Before they even go to school, you're selling them short.
And while they're in school, how many parents actually look at progress reports and say, you know what, boom, this is what we're going to do. We're going to take this, and that. And then when you come home every day, this is what we're going to have you work on until you become an A+ student. How many of you listening right now look at your child's progress report, whether they're 6 or 16, and say, you know what, we're going to get you a tutor because you're doing algebra and daddy don't know how to do algebra. Or you're talking about chemistry and mommy's not good with chemistry, so we're going to get you a tutor. Oh, I can't afford a tutor. Does your kid have Jordans on their feet? Take the Jordans back, go get some K-Swiss, and take that money and put it in the tutor. I'm tired of excuses. I was listening to Dr. Eric Thomas. He says that you have results or you have reasons. How many parents have reasons for their kids not succeeding? I want results from my stepdaughter. Oh, that girl makes me so proud. She's one of the smartest kids I've ever met in my life. I get excited about putting food on the table, and I get excited about putting food in her spirit. Or teaching her about time, or teaching her how to do math on her fingers. Yes, you can work the problem out on paper, but I want you to be able to just do it off of your fingers. I get excited about teaching and developing her. How many parents are excited about teaching their children? But I digress. So these kids are going to college, barely can read, barely can do math, take remedial courses, get discouraged, drop out. Boom. No skill set, no work ethic. Now they don't have a piece of paper that's required in this new free world called America. And then the other problem, they said there's too many options. When you look at the college schedule, it's too many options. People can't look at this piece of paper with all these classes, and they can't figure out how they're supposed to get from A to Z, which is Z being that degree. They take a bunch of stuff, they hop from A to F and then come back to G, and wonder why they don't end up at Z, because they're skipping around. They haven't actually, so they want to create this thing called pathways, which makes it easier, right? But okay, let me explain this. Let me explain it like this. Whenever there becomes a large amount of people not achieving, there's always, it means there's something wrong with the system. There's not something wrong with that person. It's not something wrong with their environment. There's not something wrong with their work ethic. It's something wrong with the system. So why is it that so many people have been able to graduate from college without this pathway thing? Why is it such a problem now? Don't worry, I'll wait. Just like in the school system, right? All these kids are failing FCAT. FCAT's not tough. I slept through FCAT. You know why? Because I was hungry for knowledge. I always wanted to learn. Oh, the kids who, my mom wasn't there doing my homework with me. Let me make this completely clear. My mother was a single parent mother. She raised 3 boys. And I love her to death, but she didn't make our education a priority. And it reflected in my brother's grades. God gave me a spirit of hunger for truth. He gave me a spirit for truth. That's why I'm here today in front of you talking to you, because I have a spirit for truth. So I was able to go beyond and overcome the fact that my mom didn't spend time with us doing our homework. But it showed up in my brother's grades. Very much so. I was always in advanced courses since the day I touched first grade to the day I graduated high school. I was always in advanced or honors, always, because that was just naturally me. But people aren't naturally that way. And once you know that your child is not naturally gifted in that way, that means you have to help them, push them, get them there. But what happens in our school system? So they can't pass the FCAT. So it's something wrong with the FCAT. It's not something wrong with their parents. It's not something wrong with their kids. It's not something wrong with the curriculum. Actually, no, it's not the curriculum. Well, now it is the curriculum because they dumbed it down. Remember, you used to go to school, it was a 93 to get an A. It was 93 or 94 to get an A, at least here in Florida. Guess what? How can you get an A now? It's 90. They dropped it 3 points or 4 points. Why? Because they wanted more kids to get A's. I'm sorry, I don't know if you guys got that. All right, so getting an A used to be a 93 or 94, but since enough kids weren't getting A's and enough schools weren't getting money for grades, so they dropped the scale. They dumbed it down, at least here in Florida, and that's what they did. But guess what? Didn't work. Did not work. Whenever you dumb down a system, instead of increasing work ethic, instead of increasing parental involvement, all you're doing is making dumber people. Tell me right now in China, have they actually decreased their education to be able to compete on this world scale? No. They actually upped the standards. I don't know if you heard one of my previous shows, but these kids know like 2 languages by the time they're 10 or 11 years old. Kids can barely speak the basic English by the time they're 10 or 11 years old. How many adults right now are afraid to read a book out loud in front of people? If you're listening, I'm talking about you. That's the point. We're dumbing down the system. So now what we're doing in college, we're saying that we need to make sure we handhold. We need to make sure that parents and their kids are working with guidance counselors and making sure that they have a pathway of their own to get success. Now it's the school systems. It's their fault. Now it's their job. We keep lowering the standards of students, but on the world scale, the standards aren't being lowered. The standards are becoming higher. By the year 2020, it's almost going to be a requirement to have some type of post-secondary education. Just like it used to be, like you used to have a high school diploma. You're going to have a certificate of a trade, a certificate in the medical field, a certificate from your of education, a certificate of a degree. You're going to have some type of post-secondary certification. So while we're dumbing down standards, the world is saying, no, we require more. So how can the two meet? Well, it's this thing called work ethic. It's this thing called forward thinking. It's this thing called parenting. I don't know if you guys heard of it. It's brand new. It just came out. Seriously, it must have just came out, because what determines the success of Bill Gates? What determines the success of Jeff Bezos? Were they literally just that smarter than okay, boom, I'm talking about, you consider those guys geniuses. How about the millionaire next door? That guy who made it past the 10th grade, that was it. He passed the 10th grade, dropped out of school, but now he owns 14 laundromats. Now he owns 7 mechanic shops. Now he owns 8 print shops. He wasn't the smartest bunch in the bag. That's why he dropped out of school. You know what he said? I'm not the smartest one. So let me actually, instead of just going through this world with no purpose and no vision, let me select this one thing and let me put so much of my heart, blood, sweat, tears, and resources in it. So I'm gonna stop using those examples of what people say, because if you use Bill Gates, someone say that, well, he's a genius, so you can't relate that to me. So the millionaire next door, that guy who lives next door in that middle class neighborhood, who has about $5 to $11 million in the bank, because of the fact that, you know what, he didn't try to be a superhero. He understood success is opportunity matched by effort and resources. Why kids are graduating and can't find jobs? Because their parents have failed them and they failed themselves. The school system didn't fail you. Well, now it is, because they're putting all that crap in it. And that's totally a different discussion. But the school system didn't fail you, because you know what? The school system is only there to help guide you. When they teach you something in class, go home and study it. How you think you're going to be better? Those 6.5 hours are filled with so much different information that the only way to build upon it is to grow outside the classroom. And why are you waiting to college to figure out what you want to do with your life? That makes no sense. Anybody tell you that it's okay to go to college without direction is serving you short. It's not the college fault that you don't have a job that matches your degree. If you go get a master's, you're going to have about $59,000 worth of debt. Tell me how you're going to pay that off without a clear vision of what you're doing. Getting a piece of paper used to be, they called it signaling. You signaled that you achieved this much and now you want this much money. Signaling no longer counts. You actually have to have a specification to be used. Those general degrees, those were signal. That's what you call signaling degrees. Those general liberal arts degrees, it signals that you went through the process and that you're capable of doing something. That no longer counts. So anyone who wants a general degree, stop it right now. And if you have one, too bad for you. It's about specification. You need to get a trade, get a degree that shows that you can do this particular thing in this particular field. Otherwise, you're wasting your time, and the automation is going to replace you. This world is not easy. This world is tough. It's kill or be killed. That's exact. In the business world, whoo, there's some animals out there. There's some real lions out there. And if your parents have taught you to be a gazelle, they don't love you very much. I'm sorry. I'm just going to put that out there. Any parent is teaching their child to be a gazelle in this workforce, it's not going to work out well for you, bro. You're going to go home crying every night, talking about why me. I don't do that. I'm sorry. I'm so hungry, it's ridiculous. I don't know if you can feel my drive, but if you can't, I don't know, you must be deaf. This is the voice of Young America. We're going to give it to you raw, pure, with love. I'm saying this out of love. I'm just a passionate person. Keep up with us. Voice of Young America, Justin Austin.
You're listening to the Voice of Young America with Justin Austin. Connect with Justin at thevoyatampabay.weebly.com. The Voice of Young America on AM 860. The Answer.
I'm Justin Austin, host of The Voice of Young America. When it comes to complete auto repair and fast service, check out the pros at Autoland Center, 1308 East Bush Boulevard in Tampa, providing professional quality work on all American-made and foreign car models. Great pricing on complete auto repair services, oil changes, and brakes. Autoland Center at 1308 East Bush Boulevard, where experience and good service go a long way. Call 813-764-7891. That's 813-764-7891. Autoland Center.
The Voice of Young America relies on committed Americans like you to stand with us. If you're frustrated with the lack of real information being delivered to the next generation, then support Justin's efforts. Connect on social media, thevoyatampabay.weebly.com. Email thevoyatampabay@gmail.com. The Voice of Young America. To inform with truth and broadcast collectively and respectively the diverse ideals of young America.
Finding skilled and unskilled tradesmen can be a problem, whether it's temporary or long-term. Rose Employment Solutions handles all of your workers' comp needs while responsibly solving your staffing problems. You make the call, they do it all. 813-644-5037. And for the quality tradesmen in search of career growth, full-time hours, and multiple pay options, call Rose Employment Solutions, 813-644-5037. Learn more at rose-emp.com or just stop by their office, 1020 West Bush Boulevard in Tampa.
Welcome back to the Voice of Young America with Justin Austin. Connect with Justin by phone. Call 813-516-6851. 813-516-6851.
Welcome back to the Voice of Young America. I'm your star host, Justin Austin, and we want to give another shout out to our sponsors, Autoland Center. Go with a trusted name. These guys, they serve you very well. 1308 East Bush Boulevard, Tampa, Florida. Don't give him a call. Stop on by. The guy's quite busy, but he'll make time for you if you show up. Now let's get into our next section. And this one here, the society piece is always dear to me. It will always be dear to me. And these are based on conversations. You know, when we talked about the first piece today of Reactive Politics, that was a conversation I had with a young American by the name of Bobby. I had a conversation with a young lady by the name of Kaylee, and she was talking about her degree and how the struggles she faced in this job world. And she definitely had made a point. The degree definitely didn't help her as much as it should, but she wasn't as prepared as she should have been too as well. So it's not just one side of the coin. It's both sides, the heads and the tails of it, that actually make the quarter, if you think about it like that. And this next piece come from, another discussion that I had with a gentleman, and point blank period, America has become the sensitive nation. We are the feelings nation. We used to be the industrious nation. We used to be the spiritual nation. We used to be the loving nation. Now we're the feeling nation. We feel this way, and that's all that matters. So, and that got me thinking. Once I was just thinking about these feelings over facts, right? And then so I was watching this documentary last night, and it was talking about the emotions within the animal kingdom. And it was talking about fear, it was talking about hunger, talking about pleasure, and talking about attachment. And then, I'm a thinker, so I started thinking. And I'll put this plug in. Check out the website, thevoyagetampabay.weebly.com. New blog up, Sensitive Nation, Feelings Over Facts. And I explain more, but let's get back into the topic. But as I was thinking, I looked at it, right? What are emotions? Emotions are indicators, at least within the animal kingdom, right? If you feel fear is an emotion that indicates that there's danger present. And your life can be taken in this moment if you don't have an instantaneous reaction to preserve it. What is hunger? Hunger is an indicator that the sustenance that you need to survive and persist is running extremely low. And if you don't get more sustenance, then you won't continue and survive in this life. Now, we're just going to focus on those two. Well, actually, I just want to focus on fear because, everybody knows about hunger. But just think about the fear aspect and apply that to human beings. We have more than instinct than the animal kingdom, which elevates us, right? We become the top of the food chain because we have the intellect, which allows us to store knowledge, analyze and process, and then be forward thinking. So if we know danger is going to occur in this life, we know, and the dangers that we face as human beings is much more complex, then we need to be taking the knowledge that we've stored of the past, of history, analyzing and processing it, and becoming forward thinking. That's what legislators are supposed to do, actually, when they create laws. But as human beings, as individuals, to preserve your own life, you have to do the same thing. You need that same development. So apply that to what's going on right now. The fear, right? And man, check this out. There's been at least 8 shootings in the 45, hold on. Yeah, it was, okay. 8 shootings in the first 45 days of 2018. Tell me how come we didn't have a town hall meeting to after the 8th shooting? Why? When 2 people died back in January 23rd, there was no town hall meeting. It was no scream. No one was screaming at the senator of that state in Kentucky. Or at least if they screamed, I just didn't hear it. But how about the girl who brought the gun to the school in middle school? I think she was a 12-year-old girl. How many town hall meetings did we have after that? Or on January 22nd in Kentucky when there was a shooting? That's what I mean. Let's be completely honest about what we're doing here. 17 people had to die before we had a town hall meeting. But if 2 people died in the same circumstance, no town hall meeting. 17 people die. Oh, let's wake up and listen. Fear is an indicator that your life is being threatened or bodily injury, bodily harm is imminent. It's an indicator that your instinct and your intellect needs to be activated to survive in that moment. But the aftermath shouldn't be, what happens in the aftermath should not be instinctual. It should be intellectual. So we've already got past the parkland. We got past January 22nd. We got past January 23rd. We got past the middle school girl bringing the gun to school. We got past all those things. So now we're not facing immediate danger. So now we activate the intellect, right? We don't hold on to the emotion. And why are you holding on to emotion? Well, you're holding on to it because maybe you're still experiencing trauma from that event or from those who are close to you that were part of the event. Maybe you're still experiencing trauma because you lost loss of life from someone who was close and near to dear to you. Or the fact that you really do have this feeling of fear that it could happen again any moment. Those are valid feelings and valid emotions. I'm not saying they aren't. But screaming at Marco Rubio, what is that going to get you? People who are hurt other people. So they had, and this is what liberal media does, they pulled out all these kids, gave them a platform to scream at adults. And what is that going to do? Because Columbine was worse than Parkland. Virginia Tech was worse than Parkland. So if they didn't do anything then, why are they going to do something? Why does your screaming matter now? Use your intellect. What does your intellect tell you? Yes, the Second Amendment is constitutional. Yes, we have the right to bear arms. This is going to make sure, first of all, if the people aren't armed and only the government is armed, at any time, martial law can take place. That's why we have the Second Amendment. Let's be completely clear. This is for Americans to never turn into sheep. But some of you sheep already. I can't help that. Second Amendment is constitutional. Next, gun laws are necessary. Background checks necessary. If someone is making threatening comments about shooting up a school and causing danger, causing harm, no, don't give that person the gun. Yes, the FBI should investigate. Yes, the people in the FBI should be fired. Whoever got the warning that this kid was going to do something and didn't even forward it to the field office. I totally agree. Fire those people, reprimand them, change laws that make sense. But never forget the real issue. The issue is not gun laws. The issue is not the incompetence of legislators. The issue is not the real issue, the core issue. Those things they surround the nucleus. I think, I'm not even going to get into a science lesson, but just think about the nucleus. What's in the heart of that nucleus? The spirit of man. For example, talked about early in the show that if I waited 3 days for a background check, I never committed a crime before, but I have hate in my heart. Tell me what law is going to stop me from causing mayhem. Boom. All right. You take every semi-automatic gun off the street, every single one of them, out of cops' hands, out of bad guys' hands, out of good guys' hands. But I still have hate in my heart. So what am I going to do now? I can, find a way to make a bomb? I can find a way to do. That's the thing. When you remove this particular weapon, there's a plethora of other weapons. When people want to cause harm, it's just not about gun laws. They said the Russians wanted to cause harm to the American political system. Tell me, what gun did they use? When the greed of Wall Street and the average American caused the recession, tell me, what gun did they use? Because I don't care what you say. The greed that the average American displayed in getting homes they couldn't afford, and the greed of Wall Street and those banks giving out loans that they knew couldn't be afforded with these inflated interest rates, that was more catastrophic than Parkland. And guess what the government did? They consolidated wealth on Wall Street. All they did was make Bank of America richer. All they did was make Lehman Brothers out of business. And what? Who else got Lehman Brothers a business? JP Morgan Chase? Stop being fooled by running to legislators. So, Justin, what are you really trying to say? I'm trying to say that fear is an indicator to activate the intellect. And what does intellect do? It gives reason and logic. And reason and logic states that the law can only go so far. But what goes beyond the law? Can anyone answer that question? What supersedes the law? As in the good book, I always got to go back to it. It said that the law wasn't created to save you. The law cannot save you. It can make, the law was created to bring you into consciousness. So what saves? The spirit. I'm never going to get, if you don't like it, stop listening. I'm never going to get away from that message until we attack the hearts of men, the hearts of children. Then we can eradicate school shootings. Put more cops up. See what happens. Tighten the gun laws. See what happens. Another school shooting, another school shooting, another school shooting. I guarantee it. I don't want it to happen, but facts are facts. And if I'm hurting your feelings, I don't care because I'm speaking truth. If truth hurts your feelings, then you're immature. That's what that means. Emotions are indicators to activate instinct and intellect. Emotions aren't there for you just to hold on to them. I'm sorry. They're not. They're not. And they're temporary. We're allowing these teenagers to use their emotions we're allowing I'm sorry, not we, because I have nothing to do with that. The liberal media is propping these kids up and allowing them to spew their hurt and their pain, their feelings, instead of teaching them that feeling that you feel is supposed to activate effort and logic and reason inside of you to make a difference in the world. Not to scream at politicians. Marco Rubio is not going to change this world if he passes gun legislation. Bill Nelson's been around since 1972 in a political position. Tell me how many school shootings have he prevented? Wake up, bruh. Wake up. Unless we start actually identifying what the cancer actually is and where the cancer lies, all the other stuff doesn't mean anything. I promise you. I put that on everything. We have to start choosing facts over feelings. We have to stop teaching our kids to be gazelles and be so sensitive. It's not going to work. It's not going to prevent school shootings. It's not going to prevent another recession, another crash. These things aren't effective by themselves. Let's make that clear. Gun laws, effective. More school SROs, effective. More mental health programs, effective. Only if they're attached to the greater thing. Laws can't save you, but your spirit can. I know you might not want to hear that type of message, so stop listening now, because I'm never going to stop. I can't stop, because the spirit of man in the 1800s, that's what brought why do you think we have a railroad from coast to coast? That was the spirit of man. It was industrious. Why do you think we have this beautiful America? The spirit of man said the king was wrong. We seek truth. We seek peace. We seek love. We're going to go to this new land called America. Our spirits are going to drive us there, and we're going to succeed. We're going to flourish. What happened to that spirit, bro? The spirit of industry, the spirit of love, the spirit of charity. If you want to know what's wrong with America, look at those three things. Spirit of love, spirit of industry, the spirit of charity. Identify what those three things lie in America, and I bet you can indicate every single atrocity, why they occurred, and if they're going to occur again, based on the level of those three spirits. I'm Justin Austin. I'm a regular American. My goal in life is to make America better by making families better, which means that we have to make fathers great again. Join us in making America great again by seeking truth over feeling. Thank you for joining in this week. This is the Voice of Young America. We love you. We love you. We love you. God bless.
You've been listening to The Voice of Young America with Justin Austin. The Voice of Young America relies on committed Americans like you to stand with us. If you're frustrated with the lack of real information being delivered to the next generation, then support Justin's efforts. Connect on social media, thevoyatampabay.weebly.com. Email thevoyatampabay@gmail.com. And be sure to join us next Saturday evening at 6 for the Voice of Young America here on AM 860. The Answer.